Hey everybody, this is James Pelton, and I am here with Alexander from Fraction Mining is what we're going to be talking about today. And celebration, this is the first day in 8 days that I have not had a fever. And we have this
Nice.
sun coming in my window, and it's like a new day dawning. You can see it on my face, this shining that's going on. So excited to be here, feeling a lot better. If you're in the audience, please hit the like button and just say hi. And let me know, question of the day. I like to get questions to get the comments rolling so that the YouTube algorithm sees, wow, look at all the action going on here. So let's say I did this yesterday, but I'd like to know, when was the last time you were sick and how bad was it? That way you can associate sickness with fraction mining and get a lot of negative vibes.
Yeah, that's perfect.
So, Alexander, good to see you, brother. You are also a YouTuber. Can you start with just a quick introduction of yourself? And then we'll get into fraction mining and talk through it a bit.
Sure, absolutely. So for those of you probably know me from the YouTube as tactical investing, publicly I'm known as Alexander Bannister. Been doing YouTube for going on 2 years now. Absolutely love what I do. We've got a fantastic community behind tactical investing. And currently I am active duty in the Air Force. I actually hit my 3-year mark December 17th. So it's a pretty exciting opportunity having been in the Air Force for now 3 years. Actually, I'm not too far from you, James. There's nothing in Kansas except Wichita, really, because Kansas City is really in Missouri. But outside of that, and stationed here, been here since first term kind of situation in McConnell Air Force Base. My contract does end next year, so there'll be a lot of decisions having to be made. Absolutely love what I do. I'm the aerospace ground equipment, so pretty much deal with everything mechanics wise, diesel engines and the like when it comes to my Air Force job. On top of that, obviously YouTube and now or have been for the past several months, founder Fraction Mining.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, and welcome to all the audience. Appreciate seeing all you guys. How are you feeling today, James? Funny Turtle, I am feeling just great. And even better now that I get to talk about a good project. Again, I was telling Alexander when he was asking if I wanted to be part of fraction mining and what they're doing. There's not a lot of projects in the space where I feel good about hanging my hat on them and saying, yeah, this is one that I trust in and that I believe in them long term. But fraction mining is one of those. So glad to have that in the space. Can I ask a question? Yes, please do. Anybody ask questions, we'll bring them up. That's why we do these live instead of, also, if we do them live, I don't have to edit them is another reason. Secret YouTube tip. The secret's out. But yeah, Alex, can you go ahead and start with just, again, most of my audience has heard about fraction mining. I've done some YouTube shorts and things like that. But for those who don't, can you give a 10,000 foot view of what you guys are trying to do?
Sure, absolutely. So fraction mining in a very broad sense has two faucets, right? We have our business to business aspect, and then we have the project, the business to customer, because the same way that Sam Pittman, who many of you probably know, the founder of Hydro Wells Club, he and I were just talking for about an hour. We had a interview, if you will, just talking about business. And, that was one of the things that we constantly talked about, and the number one thing that we both harped on, which, by the way, the interview for that will be coming out in a couple of days. But that was the focus: is these are businesses. These aren't your random crypto projects. These aren't your DeFi degen stuff. These are registered. These are companies. These are businesses. They have business people and people with business acumen behind these companies, right? So from a very broad perspective, fraction mining, from the business to customer aspect, is looking to break down the barriers to mining crypto. Now, obviously, we're starting off with Bitcoin, similarly to Hydro Wells Club. Sam Pittman and I had shared a kind of a similarity as far as like why we chose Bitcoin specifically. Obviously, it's not bad to choose other altcoins, but we know the value that Bitcoin has. So from the project perspective, being able to break down the barriers from the entry cost as far as purchasing an ASIC, which, mind you, this time last year was $10,000-$15,000. Altcoin miners, we won't get into those just for James's sake, but from the hardware side of things, it can be very expensive and daunting. Then when you can surpass the hardware side of things, you get into the hosting side of things, right? For me specifically in Kansas, in the summer months, it gets to 15 cents, making it unprofitable. For Sam in the UK, it's like 20, 25 cents. So that's absolutely ridiculous. And so really even though you can afford the hardware, you can't really afford to run it unless you're going to be in the loss. And then on top of that, there's hosting constraints. So when it comes to if you're in an apartment, more than likely you don't have 240 volts, and your landlord probably wouldn't allow you to run a loud ASIC. So from all those separate barriers, it keeps and restricts so many individuals from participating in something bigger than ourselves, and that is the Bitcoin network, at least in this perspective. So that's kind of the broader view, is we wanted to break down those barriers to entry to mine Bitcoin and mine cryptocurrency, all on the backbone of Flare. Now, the backbone, is really the critical part, and is the crux, if you will, of fractional mining, because without Flare, and the reason we're focusing on Flare is because, in our opinion, Flare is Bitcoin in the next, the whole ZRF situation. We'll talk about that probably more, but the World Bank Organization wants to have zero routine flaring by 2030. How can we make this happen? Is the same way ExxonMobil is doing it. They're mining Bitcoin with flare sites, and we can make that happen with our processes. So in 8 years, we want to look back on history and say Bitcoin was the solution to get rid of flare. It's kind of a broad 40,000 foot view, if you will.
There you go. I always say, yeah, that's like the elevator from the zero. That's like if you're going to Empire State Building, 100-floor elevator pitch. No, I like that. So and I like what you said about how you and Hydra Whales are similar, because I'm kind of seeing crypto go in two directions. There's one direction, which is like crypto and degen and funny memes and pixelated graphics and things like that. The crypto degen culture that we're kind of used to. And then like Hydra Whales, and it seems like you guys are going more this direction of like traditional business that's using the blockchain or using crypto in some way to accomplish traditional business type things. So again, for audience members, you kind of have to, which of those directions do you want to see? And personally, coming from venture capital and real estate and things like that, I prefer this side. Just because the returns might not be quite as high as the degen plays, but we've seen the degen plays, we've all been losing all of our money, and I'm just kind of tired of it right now. So I'm tired of losing money. So that's great. Love to see that. Could you talk about this flare gas? Because I think what you said is a big part. I think most people don't know anything about this. So can you kind of explain, no one that I've ever heard has associated Bitcoin mining with environmentally friendly, right? Those two things are against each other normally. Can you explain about how flare gas fits into this?
Sure, absolutely. And to kind of touch on your last point, right? I think, when you have these two separate viewpoints of business versus degen, when you look at a bear market, the business projects and the business companies are going to be the ones that are successful because they are an actual business, right? When you've got degen projects that are oftentimes built on very weak foundations, if you will, those oftentimes don't stand the test of time, because they're not, sometimes the people behind them aren't even businessmen, and secondarily, you don't have a business structure to accommodate the current times that we're in, if you will. But Flare itself, Flare it may appear to be very difficult, but it's very simple, and when you kind of look into it. Now, on the very broad scope, Flare happens because it's a requirement. In many ways in the United States, when you have an oil site, they have excess methane. Now, you can do one of two things. You can directly release the methane, which is extremely bad for the environment and greenhouse gases, or you can burn off the methane. Now, it seems like burning it would be worse for the environment, but in fact, it's actually better for the environment to burn it. Now, a lot of your oil companies, they may not want to spend the money, and financially, it's very expensive to pipe or create the infrastructure to pipe that methane natural gas and then be able to refine it and then sell it. So instead, they set up the easy infrastructure and just burn it on site. So with that kind of situation, their money gets made through oil. They really don't care about the fees or the fines or whatever it may be to flare on site. Now, you're talking about $100 billion worth of flaring happens worldwide. So what we're tapping into is over $100 billion market. We know ExxonMobil recently, through a pilot company called Crusoe Energy, mines Bitcoin now in North Dakota via flare. So flare as a process is natural gas that just gets burned off because they have to have that for safety reasons. Now, what's recently started getting developed, and this is I wouldn't consider this as like cutting edge or revolutionary technology that came out this year. It's been around for a couple of years now. So it's not like we're doing something that's untested or has not been proven. When you've got probably one of the world's largest oil companies, ExxonMobil, get into mining Bitcoin using this process, it gives it a form of validation. So I have a connection with a good friend of mine I met at Consensus Crypto Conference earlier this year in Austin that knows the individuals at Texas A&M who did the research on this technology. So the process by which you're taking that methane natural gas, putting it through a diesel generator or through a natural gas generator. I'm getting my Air Force diesel generators mixed up. But you put it through a natural gas generator, and you're able to convert that energy into electricity to mine whatever. You could provide that electricity back to the grid if you wanted, but because oftentimes these locations are remote, you can convert that energy into powering Bitcoin miners. So then eventually as you capture more and more of that flare, as you consume more and more of that energy that normally would get burned off, you're consuming that and powering crypto miners with that same energy that normally just gets released into the atmosphere. So you're providing a solution that the entire world, you've got right now about 23 countries that are agreed to move towards ZRF, zero routine flaring, by 2030, headed by the World Bank Organization. So when you have countries, you have major companies coming together to make this happen, we're seeing that Bitcoin is a solution that several are utilizing to make this a reality. And so for us, oil is by far the largest opportunity. You do have landfills that flare. You have like animal waste sites that flare. There's a lot more outside of just oil, but oil by far is one of the largest opportunities.
Okay, very cool. And this is one thing that makes me really excited about this is when I've talked to like hedge funds or institutional investors, and I've talked about, hey, have you ever thought about getting into Bitcoin mining? One of the hesitations I almost always get is, well, it's so bad for the environment. So if you can flip that, I think there's potential for institutional investors to start getting involved in something like this as well. So I get really excited about that. And I think this is the perfect time. I like how you worded that, where it's not like you're the first ones doing it. So it's, brand new. Is this going to work? But it's not like everyone's doing it. So you're in this kind of nice curve. You're kind of on the up end of this nice curve. So really like that. We do have some questions from the audience.
Sure.
One thing I want to do before I get to the audience questions, how does this compare? One objection I've been getting a lot to is right now you'd be better off just buying Bitcoin rather than Bitcoin miners. Do you want to just talk about that or talk about any of the numbers you've run or your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it really just depends on your perspective, right? Because everyone's going to have their own opinion on where Bitcoin's going to be, where it's going to be over the next couple of years. Right now we just came off the tail end of a bull market. Right now we're in the middle of a bear market. No one knows how long a bear market is going to last. Now, if you're depending on certain theories and certain cycles, if you're a believer of the halving cycle, you would be believing that, over the next, we're pretty much on the tail end of a 1-year bear cycle. And the next 2 years are going to be a form of consolidation before we reach another potential bull market tail end of 2024, early 2025, right? That's a very popularized theory as far as thought. But if you consider buying Bitcoin over that same period of time, why not be directly involved in two aspects of value from mining Bitcoin. One, you have something that with the NFT, which represents hash rate, a hash rate contract, you're able to increase that hash rate, continually increase the value of the amount of Bitcoin and the amount of Bitcoin itself that you mine. And the value of that specifically is, well, if you go and you buy Bitcoin, you constantly have a time and a place where you're converting your fiat, more than likely, unless you're just doing directly from crypto. But typically, people buying Bitcoin probably taking their dirty dollars, buying Bitcoin with it. And so there's a constant form of purchase that's required. Instead, with the purchasing of equipment and purchasing specifically of a NFT, fractional mining NFT, you have the purchase of the NFT that for the longevity of the project, you're constantly mining more Bitcoin, right? So you're going to have two forms of thought. There's going to be people that look at the same way I have Kadena. Why not just buy KDA instead of mining it? And so there's that aspect that there's a constant buy-in that you constantly have to put in more money rather than a one-time purchase, if you will. Now, secondarily, when it comes to getting involved in Bitcoin mining, it adds to the decentralization of Bitcoin because right now the majority of Bitcoin mining is controlled by a lot of your publicly traded mining companies. So when you're able to participate in something and continue decentralize something, we've seen issues with current centralization with FTX, right? So we know how bad centralization can be. So when you can decentralize the network by participating in it through Bitcoin mining, it's not a direct monetary value, but it's being part of something bigger than yourself, and that's a secondary value add. So there's obviously arguments on both points, but the way that we perceive it is there's a lot of value because if Bitcoin stays in this price range for the next 2 years, there's a lot more reward opportunity from mining Bitcoin than just buying and hodling it because it'll be the same price. Your value will be the same if it's the same price in a year or so, right?
Yep. Nope. That makes a lot of sense. Those are exactly, I couldn't have said it better myself, which is why you're running the project and not me. Ken would like to know, we have a whole bunch of questions from the audience, and yeah, audience, keep them coming. We'll get it to as many of them as we can. And specifically, if there's things that's holding you back from investing, those are the real questions that I'd really like us. Hey, why would you not want to get into this? And let's kind of direct those. Have you looked into alternative energy sources as well, or are you kind of going 100% at the flare direction?
Yeah, Ken, great question. So, we talked to, or I talked to Sam Pittman, right? They're utilizing hydro. There are alternative energy sources, right? There's a lot of alternative energy sources. The main thing is we don't want to focus on being on grid because by promoting that we're on grid and staying on grid, it only adds to the current negative narrative of Bitcoin mining is stressful on the grid, specifically if you're dealing with ERCOT in Texas. It can be really straining on the grid. And for us, there's primarily three current alternative energy sources. There's flare, hydro, and solar. The problem that you have with solar and hydro is that's already perceived form of energy as valuable. Right now, flare is still considered to be a complete waste. So the cost aspect of something that most consider to be trash that they literally burn, the cost of that is way less than the cost of something that already has perceived value, such as hydro, such as solar. So until and if ever flare or the waste of the natural gas is ever considered on the same spectrum of hydro or the likes of solar, it really doesn't make sense to go for those routes simply from a margin perspective. Once we're able to release details of the price points that we're working with as far as our energy costs versus hydro or solar, you'll realize that it's nearly a third of the cost. I mean, in many ways, it makes all the sense in the world to go flare from a cost, energy, and an environment standpoint.
Okay, and just to make sure I'm understanding correctly, like when you use hydro, you're not necessarily helping the environment. You're just not hurting it as much as you would
Exactly.
be. But
Yeah.
with flare, you're actually helping the environment by
You are.
getting those. Oh, so that's
Yes,
a
you're
plus to
you're
that.
capturing the carbon emissions at that point. You're cleaning that up through multiple different methods as you're putting it through the generator, and then you're no longer releasing a bad form of carbon or anything to that extent. You're able to clean it up through the entire process. So it's one thing to be having a good energy source, which is great, right? Mind you, it's fantastic to have that, and it's 10 times better than being on grid. But it's even better when you can contribute to less environmental impact with Flare.
Gotcha. Very cool. Can you talk through the what people need to do to get into
Sure.
this, and maybe some of the finances, and when launch and those types of things? Let's just get to that. That's a lot of the questions in the audience.
Sure. Yeah, so there's two aspects to fraction mining in our NFTs, right? So the membership NFT is based on a Web5 concept. What this allows individuals to have is both your Bitcoin address. Once we launch Cadena, you'll have your Cadena address all within one NFT. So that allows you through the membership to have all of your different wallet addresses all in one location, and you control those wallet addresses. So it's not necessarily revolutionary, but it's based on ERC 721A. So it's something that's kind of was designed by our lead developer, our senior full stack developer. Obviously, something that Yabanks and I talked about during our AMA is if you look at the experience and expertise of Joshua Belk, has an extensive qualifications. So he was kind of the mind behind designing this specifically. So your membership is where you have to go and actively claim, your mining rewards under in Bitcoin and in Cadena specifically, whatever you mine. And then your BTC NFTs, which are actually launching at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time tonight, those NFTs are what represent a hash rate contract. It's a hash rate service. So right now we're going to be in a range of 6 to 12 terahash per NFT. Now the reason for that range is because, in many ways we have a lot of connections in this space, but we also have a lot of opportunities from current market conditions where you have certain companies that are having to liquidate certain assets. Compute North, when they went bankrupt, we got access. We weren't in a place to be able to take advantage of it right then and there. But there's constant companies having to do liquidations where we're able to purchase miners even less than what we're at right now, which is pennies on the dollar. So if we're able to acquire a lot more miners, then that obviously increases our contribution to the community as far as hash rate per NFT. So you have to have one membership. The memberships last a whole year. It's pretty much $25 based on the conversion rate of USD to Matic. It's a yearly membership fee that also gets you access to wholesale costs for miners. It also gets you access to when we launch hosting. So if you're wanting to bring your own miner and host with us, we have several YouTube partners. Your friend Andy, he and I have talked. He's wanting to host miners with us. So we've got multiple different individuals that would like to take advantage of what we offer. So that's going to be available through the membership. And even a wholesale cost, right? You can save literally $1,000 with a $25 membership, right? So there's a lot of value add to the membership, but you only have to have one membership per any set amount of the proof of work crypto mining NFT. So when we launch Cadena, you still have the membership NFT because your Cadena address will be in there that you can go and configure and change whenever you want. So those are kind of the two separate NFTs and their processes.
Okay, gotcha. So mint.fractionmining.com, you can get one of these membership NFTs. Do you need this to buy the Bitcoin
You
NFTs
don't.
tonight? So
No,
just
no,
to
no.
claim them.
Yep. Yeah. So once the dashboard's built out, which will be on the website as well, so it'll be very easy to be able to connect through your wallets, have both. So you do have to have both to claim because your Bitcoin address is in your membership NFT. And then your membership NFT reads the BTC NFT to see how much hash rate you're contributing. So, but for the purpose of tonight, you don't have to, it's not gated, if you will, to purchase the BTC NFT because we realize there's probably going to be people wanting just to create a form of arbitrage. They're going to buy some, sell some. OpenSea will probably see that as well. So we didn't want to kind of token gate it, if you will, for the purpose of our launch.
Okay, very cool. And then where do we go tonight for minting the BTC NFTs? How much will those be?
So those will be $300. Those will be in Matic. We're also going to be offering those. So there'll be MetaMask Wallet Connect, and then we are integrating Paper XYZ for a credit card option. The unique thing behind that is typically with credit card options, what you'll oftentimes see is they're absolutely insane as far as an additional fee, right? Sometimes, like some people said, like please don't use like certain projects or certain companies to use the credit card option because fees can be in excess of 10%. With Paper XYZ, the fees are about 1%. So it's very minimal, and it offers a lot of users that maybe don't have crypto or don't have the technical insight, if you will, to purchase via credit card. So it makes it simple that way.
Yeah, that'll be cool because, again, if you're wanting to get people that are outside of crypto, like my
Yeah.
parents or something like that, like, hey, do you want to be involved in Bitcoin mining? You've seen my Kadena miners in my basement, but do you want to get involved with something like that? And you just need a credit card. I think they would be really interested in that.
Yeah.
So very cool. Is this accessible for Europeans? There should be no problem, right?
Yep. Available worldwide.
Okay, and then Antonio would like to know, can you put your own mining rigs in it? Is that just something where they would want to get in touch with you, or?
Yeah. So to answer your question, Antonio, so right now we don't have that as public yet. So we will be launching that feature where we'll offer like a fill out form to show how many miners you're going to want to host, and we'll set that up. That will probably be coming in the next 6 to 12 months. So we will be offering pretty much like hosting as a service, if you will, to our community.
Okay, very good. Crypto mining is terrible for the environment. Hold my beer while I get more Christmas lights on the tree I just cut down. Yeah, it's a good one.
Yeah, I've been seeing some people talking about that. Crypto mining is bad, and then all the energy that's used by Christmas lights, and nobody talks about it, right? But either way, I digress. I think it's funny to see that whole narrative, especially in New York, when it very much does not have to be that case.
Yep, totally agree. There's a whole bunch of projects selling NFTs about mining.
Mhm.
What's different about fraction mining, and what is the expected return for a $300 investment?
Sure, absolutely. So obviously, this is a point of interest, especially for those that brought it up between Hydro Wells Club and fraction mining. What's the difference, right? So Hydro Wells Club, just briefly talk about Hydro Wells Club. Specifically, Hydro Wells Club is getting in a lot of things outside of proof of work cryptocurrency mining, right? They've got Project 79, which is a arbitrage on gold. They've got Ocean Money, which is more of a fiat to crypto opportunity where they're going to offer debit cards. So, I mean, there's a lot of interesting stuff happening on Hydro Wells Club, but it's much broader than just proof of work cryptocurrency mining. So that's kind of one aspect. Now, you got other projects in the space like Kadena Mining Club that are focused primarily on solely mining Kadena. And you've got some that, like Ace Miners, are solely focused on mining Litecoin, Doge, right? So for us, the way that we looked at it is we wanted to look at the opportunity of diversification because I think that is a key to a successful business. If you have all your eggs in one basket, something bad can happen and there go all your eggs, right? So the way that we looked at it is Bitcoin's a great foundational aspect. So when we can expand our horizon past just Bitcoin, get into Kadena, we've looked at Litecoin, Doge. We're pumping the brakes a little bit on that for a couple of reasons, but we've looked at the likes of Nervo CKB. There's a lot of proof of work cryptocurrency opportunities, but the biggest thing that differentiates us from other competitors in this space is we can easily say our margins as far as our energy cost is lower than anyone else in the space. So when you have better margins, you have higher profits, and all of that gets handed down directly to the community. So as far as the ROI, that's hard to really say because there's a lot of factors that go into that. Goes the Bitcoin price. It goes into the fact that every 6 months the hash rate increases for the NFTs through increase based on the structure of the rewards. you've got network hash rate, you've got network difficulty, right? But you can easily put into a calculator, looking at once we actually announce our official hash rate, you can put that in a calculator and kind of look through like miner stat and see exactly what you look like on earnings on a daily basis, monthly and yearly. But the way that it's structured is obviously when you look at Bitcoin, it's a low risk, low reward. Cadena is a high risk, high reward opportunity. So we obviously have a lot of people that are very interested in the Bitcoin side of things because they love Bitcoin and the opportunity behind it. But then you got some people that want to take a little bit more risk and get in Cadena. And the risk you always have is an Ethereum situation where it goes to proof of stake. When we looked at it and we took the consideration of all of the cryptos out there, the one that's least likely that has the lowest chance of ever going to proof of stake is Bitcoin. Everything else has a higher probability than Bitcoin, and that's why we stuck with it. So primarily us on the energy side, that's why Flare is the backbone of fraction mining. It allows us to also continue operating while others are in a negative. So like we've talked before, James, right? It's not outrunning the bear, it's outrunning the other person. So that's really what it is.
Yep, totally get that. And if you guys want to mess around with it a little bit, I'm not an expert on this, but whattomine.com is kind of, you can go in here, you can kind of mess with some of the numbers. Some of it will be no,
Yep.
Go ahead.
What to mine's pretty good. Miner stat is also a good one. You have to be careful sometimes with ASIC miner value because of where they draw their APIs. So sometimes it's not always completely updated. But yeah, you can, once we have the specific details and once we have the configured hash rate and all of that, we'll be able to provide those numbers. And then based on what you want to put in, whether you think Bitcoin is going to be at 30,000 next year, whether you think it's going to be still at 20,000, or whether you think it's going to be at 100K in a year, right? Everyone's got their own opinion, and it'd be a lack of diligence on our end if we were to tell you what you should think of where Bitcoin's going to be.
Yep, totally get that. We have a ton of questions, so we will probably not get through all of these, but we'll just kind of get through as many as we can.
I love questions, so
yeah. And you haven't been doing any AMAs or anything, so I'm glad that we're able to. Can you talk about risks and potential downsides?
Absolutely. I'd love to say that everything is rainbow and butterflies with Flare mining, but sadly it's not. So there's two primary risk and potential downsides with well, yeah. So there's two. One with the Flare itself, and secondarily with mining, right? So when it comes to Flare itself, right, there's an infrastructure aspect. With Flare, depending on your type of setup, if you have a Gen plus one, you can typically guarantee about 95% uptime. So if you have a genset on rotation, because these are generators, these are engines, they have to keep maintained, they have to have oil changes. There's a form of maintenance that's not really involved on grid. But if you have what's called a Gen plus one, you have, while one is being maintained, one's being oil change, whatever it may be, you've got another one that comes online, and then you're able to achieve about 95% on average uptime. If you're on grid, you're about 98 to 99% uptime. So there's kind of one of the downside, if I was to say. And then depending on the nice thing is, for some individuals, there are companies out there that don't have the best management, that don't have the best insight. And you'll have situations where a genset goes down and they purchase the type of genset that doesn't have the proper parts on hand or whatever it may be, and it's down for a while. So if you don't know what you're doing and you don't have the foresight and insight of the proper equipment, that can definitely be a downside. The other risk really when it comes to this is one, anything crypto mining related, right? Let's just say, who knows where we're going to be in 5 years. If the United States decides to ban Bitcoin mining or crypto mining in general, then we'd have to move locations, right? And that would be the case for every company. So for us, that's one of the other reasons we like Flare, is it has a direct positive impact to the environment. It's not just using some good form of energy, it has a positive impact. And it's harder to say no to something that directly positively impacts the environment. But worst case scenario, we move to Canada. We already have conversations with companies in Canada, opportunities in Mexico. There's plenty of opportunities around the world. And then kind of to piggyback on that, when it comes to risk of the underlying proof of work cryptocurrency mining, is if one of these blockchains or one of these cryptos goes to proof of stake, the underlying hardware becomes next pretty much worthless. Oftentimes they're all based on certain algorithms, and when Ethereum right moved to proof of stake, Ethereum Classic was the next best choice, and those same miners are barely profitable compared to where they were with Ethereum. So that is always a risk aspect, and that's why we are putting Bitcoin as a cornerstone.
Yep. No, totally agree with that. Yeah, the government might have to find a different excuse to try to
Yeah,
get rid of Bitcoin than environmental things.
yeah,
And you're totally right. It's better from my experience. I've done a lot of at-home mining. And if you're
mm,
not going to be the one to go research it very extensively for a long time and have contacts at Bitmain and things like that, it might be better for you to have an expert do it. Just
mm,
because I did exactly what you mentioned, where I bought miners at the top of the bull market and I bought
mm,
non-Bitmain miners. And
mm,
now in the bear market, there's a Bitmain miner that mines Kadena and my miners are worthless. So it would have been a
yeah,
lot better for me to have an expert who's, knows more about the field than doing it myself in this case.
yeah.
Um, if I want to compound my earnings from fraction mining, would I just sell the rewards and buy more NFTs?
Yeah, so it really just depends on your approach simply from a contract standpoint because you get your earnings because the project's built on Polygon. You can't take your Bitcoin because Bitcoin doesn't have smart contracts. You can't take your Bitcoin earnings and convert them into more NFTs directly because the NFTs are on Polygon, so you purchase them in Matic. So if you wanted to, let's just say you earned $300 in Bitcoin or $300 worth of Bitcoin, you wanted to buy more NFTs depending on the price point that they are at in the future, then yes, you could sell the rewards, buy more NFTs, theoretically increasing the hash rate overall of your contribution.
Okay, gotcha. Antonio says, I don't like being dependent on other people. Easy rug pull option when it doesn't work. What's the protection against rug pulls? You want to talk a little bit more about the business structure
Sure.
and some of the protections against that?
Yeah, absolutely. And Antonio, obviously, this is one of the reasons why I started fractional mining, right? Is because there's been too many times in the past that you have to rely, like you said, depending on other people to be able to make the proper decisions. And it's even harder to depend on other people when you can't see who those people are. They're non-public. So one of the things when I started fractional mining is that when we brought on anyone to the team that makes decisions directly to impact the team and the company, I said, hey, if you're going to be on the project, you have to be 100% doxed. So first name, last name, who you are. So if anyone wants to do a background check on you, I've had plenty of people do background checks on me. And if they have like a LinkedIn profile, it's going to be publicly available. So that was one of the biggest things is like people ask like, hey, are you KYC? Well, we don't need a KYC when we're 100% docs on the website. You have our faces, you have everything about us available. So that's one of the big things. We're also registered in the United States. We are an LLC out of Wyoming. So we are a registered US company. So we are from all points and opportunities of regulation and transparency, we have done to our best capabilities and according to our available resources to be able to do that. So as far as additional things, audits and all that, those are going to be public once we get those completed. So all of that will be publicly available. So for us, one of the things, and this has always been something that we've harped on from the very beginning, is transparency, and that's one of the biggest outside of Flare. If you could consider our second cornerstone, and that's transparency. You can ask this of anyone who sends me a DM, anyone that asks me questions. I am 100% willing. If you have a question, you have a concern, you have a comment, I answered 20, 30 DMs on a daily basis from people wanting more insight, more clarity, and I'm not afraid to do so.
Yes, and he'd even be happy to give you his personal phone number, and you can
Yeah,
text. No, I'm just kidding.
absolutely.
Just kidding. I don't want to put that on you. Ready for you guys to take my money. How do we sign up? So again, the ways to get involved, this minting page. So you'll want a membership NFT, and then the Bitcoin NFTs will be available at you said 7 p.m.
7 p.m. Yeah. So we're going to be doing a launch party for this specifically. I'm thinking we're starting at about 5. We're going to do some more Bitcoin giveaways. Actually, that's the first time I mentioned it. So if you're part of the James Felton live stream, you get a little bit of extra alpha. But we're going to do some more Bitcoin giveaways, which, mind you, we haven't even talked about the sweepstakes, which will be starting soon. We're actually giving away a whole Bitcoin. We're giving away S19J Pro. We're also giving away 10 Ledger stacks. Those are the new Ledger Cold Store wallets. And then $1,000 worth of Fraction Mining merch. So, there's a lot of stuff that we're going to be talking about, announcing during the launch party tonight. But at 7 p.m. is when we're expecting Eastern Standard Time to have the NFTs available.
Okay, 7 p.m. Eastern time. So yeah, if you're Europe, UK, sorry, you have to do that calculate. I always just go 7
Yeah.
p.m. Eastern to UTC. This
Yep.
is what I do this every day. So 12
Yep.
a.m. UTC. So
Yep.
might be you got to stay up a little bit if you're
Stay up
wanting
a
to
little
go that direction.
bit.
All right, let's see. I think you mean what conversation is being done to address the needed cooling demands of Bitcoin mining? That's where the power goes, correct? Is mostly to the cooling.
Well, so when it comes to the Bitcoin miners, right? They're all going to be in containers. Now, these containers are specifically designed to you get what you pay for when it comes to containers. So you have some that have better cooling situations than others. So for us, Airflow specifically selecting certain models of containers is a huge thing for us because if you have higher energy, you have higher heat that can directly impact the longevity of the miners. So we have also had opportunities and explored options of not hydro cooled, not immersion, because immersion is kind of getting outdated in many ways, and hydro is really where the future is headed. And this was specifically What's Miner. We had one of our co-founders go to a event in Pennsylvania where they were overclocking a What's Miner hydro cooled unit for 300 terahash for just one Bitcoin miner, which, if you consider that, is absolutely insane. I think it was around 320 terahash. So, from the current perspective, in what we're currently doing is having the proper equipment and paying the quality price, if you will, for the better efficient cooling solutions through containers. And then we're also long-term exploring hydro options because we think that really is going to be the future and setting ourselves up for success that way.
Okay. How many mining sites are you planning on?
So we currently have one site. Specifically, we have our partners working on a secondary site, and we are having conversations right now with a third site in Canada as well. Canada is great just because it's cold, so you don't really have to worry about cooling that much. But there are some negatives when it comes to flaring and setting that flare process up in Canada. So if you already have an active flare site in Canada or somewhere where it's really cold, it's not that bad, but you do have to be a little bit more particular.
Okay. So you said when you buy and you're offering 6 to 12 hash rate,
Mhm.
terahash,
Yep.
could this increase per NFT over time?
Yes. So it's not could it increase, it will increase. So the way that the rewards are structured, which is also what's one of the unique things behind fractional mining, is 94% of the rewards go directly back to the community. You don't find that in a lot of projects where we focus on primarily giving the value back to the community. So 70% goes directly to NFT holders, 24% goes into development. So we're able to, through community participation, community voting, either increase and add on to current miners or take the current miners that we have and upgrade them to more powerful miners down the road. So yes, every 6 months there will be these decision-making events that will directly involve community participation to increase the hash rates. So it just really depends on the opportunities that we have available at that point. But yes, we're looking at the hash rate increasing anywhere between 5 to 10%. Is kind of where we are right now. That is very low ballpark numbers. It very well could be much higher than that. On the Cadena side of things, every 6 months, hash rate would increase about 30%. So with the way that it's kind of set up, it's just a numbers game in a lot of ways. But yes, it'll definitely be increasing every 6 months. So a compounding effect.
Okay. And then it seems there's no limit on minting the BTC NFTs, which is limited to 2,500. So I like Mr. C here, but what happens if they sell out? Is there going to be more next year, or what? What do people do if they miss out on the first 2,500?
Well, so sorry. No,
You better get in.
um,
Yeah.
yeah. No. So the way that we have fraction mining designed is on the BTC side of things. Our end goal is to have 12 containers, 12 Bitcoin containers. So over because this is not a project, this is a business, right? We want to have a much broader impact on not only individuals but also on the world itself to give a large opportunity to those individuals that want to get involved in mining Bitcoin. So yes, while we are launching a limited 2,500 NFTs, as we get the infrastructure in place, we will be launching more mints. Now, the price points of the BTC NFTs will be directly correlated with the price point of Bitcoin, right? Because that will directly impact where the numbers are as far as the cost of the ASICs and all that. So right now, what we're planning on is like a February-ish timeframe, maybe, of launching more BTC NFTs, but really just depends on the launch. We don't know if it's going to sell out in 5 minutes, 5 hours, 5 days. It really just don't know, right? But we are pretty excited. And with our 5-year business plan, we expect to have 12 Bitcoin containers in the course of 5 years.
And one beautiful thing, when you're not relying on Ponzi-nomics, again, I've been telling people this, it doesn't really matter how fast it sells out. Like that's not the goal is, hey, get as many people in as you possibly can as fast as you can. You don't necessarily need as hyped up of launches like we did at other projects at other times in the market. So yeah, I like that a lot. And just what comment here, good time to get into this current price of Bitcoin bear market. Imagine the return on 68K Bitcoin. Yes. And that's kind of the superpower behind projects like this is you might be able to make at Bitcoin prices where they are, this might not be that profitable, for that long, but you have to think of Bitcoin as an appreciating asset. If we knew Bitcoin was going to stay at this price for the next 30 years, this might not make as much sense. But people who get into this, you want to believe in Bitcoin, that we've seen this cycle and it keeps going up each time. And so we're anticipating that continues. How long will the mint be available?
So the mint will be available till mint out. So for us, it's not like, we don't want to keep it like closed, if you will, right? Because the thing that we'll realize is we're signing on new partners, we're bringing in new communities every day. So right now we have 6 YouTube partners. We've got about 4 ambassadors. So we've got people that are going to be directly partnered with Fraction Mining, and then we've got other individuals that are going to be working with Fraction Mining over the course of time. So I mean, overall, the mint will continue. We really don't know, but the thing is that we've seen people, come to a project. There's some projects I didn't realize existed until 6 months later, right? So that's always going to be the case. There's always going to be people that are constantly researching and want to keep it available for them.
Gotcha. And then when do you think the next mint will be?
So for Bitcoin, we're expecting around the February timeframe. Now, Cadena itself, we're expecting around March, April timeframe. Now, could it be earlier? It could be, but we'd rather plan for the worst and then kind of hope for the best, right? I feel like saying hope for the best, but a plan for the worst and then expect the best, right? is kind of the way that we're looking at it. We don't want to, constantly say, oh, well, delayed, well, delayed, 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 right? We want to kind of give reasonable timeframes based on where market conditions are.
Yep, totally agree. Andre says, I love the idea. What these projects fail to mention is the possibility to sell these NFTs when I need the capital. And, we've seen like the price of NFTs. I'm just going to use Hydra Whales as an
Mhm.
example. Hydra Whale's floor is above mint. I mean, like the floor price on Hydra
Right.
Whales has been going up even in
Yeah.
the bear market because people recognize, hey, this is not just a normal NFT with no real value, but Hydra Whales have become rare. They mint it out and that you can't get more. And so people are
Mhm.
going to the third party markets to get them. And we're seeing 2 Ethereum sales and things like that. So I imagine we don't know for sure how the third market's going to treat these NFTs,
Sure.
but I imagine that you'll be able to sell these if it mints out,
Yeah.
they'll keep their value well.
Yeah, they'll have the OpenSea is the primary secondary market. We have discussed other with other companies and other projects as far as using their platforms, but by far the most popular for this for what we're doing is going to be OpenSea.
Totally agree. Let's see. If you like Fraction Mining, click like. If you like James Pelton, click like. And if you're watching YouTube, click like. I like that.
I
Yeah,
love it.
yeah. Hit like. Let's see. A little discussion about Ethereum. I like Ethereum better as the biggest risk. Yes, but Ethereum does not have the mining right now, so
Yeah.
can't do that. Are you expecting any KYC requirements? Maybe not now, but in the future.
So that's a more of a regulatory question, right? Regulation right now in this space is it's kind of hard to make a term for where regulation is right now because that constantly evolves, right? And constantly changes. Yeah, I mean, with the whole FTX recent situation, we're going to probably see more, regulation come into the space. So our goal is because we are a registered U.S. company, is to abide with regulation as it comes out. So whatever regulation requirements come out, maybe in 2 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, we will be abiding by those because we are a U.S. company. Now, if we were starting off offshore in the Bahamas, like some sketchy companies, FTX, then maybe there's different situations, but that is not at all something we're ever interested in. Never an intention of ours because transparency is our second backbone, if you will. So regulation where it was 5 years ago is different than where it is today. And I guarantee regulation will be different 5 years from now. So our goal is to stay in line with regulation and make changes as needed.
Very good. What's this on? This is a question for me. What's this on your risk sheet, and what will you do if you compare this to the rest of crypto and the rest of DeFi? This to me would be on the safer end of crypto. Okay, that's how I'll word that. There's still risks, obviously. Like we don't know what Bitcoin's going to do. We don't. I mean, there's a lot of we don't know what regulation's going to do. There's a lot of unknowns. I will say too, again, I come from a lot of venture capital. The economy is in a place where even a lot of my venture capital deals that would normally be considered very safe, some of them have started to fall apart. We've stopped getting paid on some real estate deals and things like that. So this is not just a crypto problem. I mean, there's risk all around.
Mhm.
So I'll just say that when it comes to crypto, this is on the much safer end, especially compared to they're not promising 1% a day or 1.5% a
Yeah.
day. Much safer than any of that. I'll say. I'll say too. I'm kind of burned out on crypto a little bit, but I'm not burned out on this. So that might tell you a little bit about how I consider it risk wise compared to other things.
Sure.
Let's see. I'm a membership NFT holder, and the time starts at the beginning of 2023. Does that mean that those that catch the mint fast enough won't we waste our NFT time waiting for the next batch release? Does that question make sense?
Yeah. So absolutely, Mr. C. So the membership NFTs, right? Getting them now is just pretty much early access, right? Because these are designed for 2023. So the way that these are designed as well is still 2022, right? So if we do add another form of BTC NFTs, if you don't catch this one, like you mentioned, those will be available again for the entirety of 2023. So right now, getting them now is just kind of getting them early. So that's why we're looking at, based on where markets are, based on demand, to be able to offer them again, right? But right now there's still that limit of 2,500 membership NFTs. So right now we're still the way we design them is to have enough for additional BTC launches and for KDA launches, but the contract itself has a function that allows us to offer more. We really don't know. This is a lot of unknowns, right? We're trying to make our best decisions. It's a growing pains of a startup business and a startup company, and you're going to try to make your decisions as best as possible to make the most sense to the best impact to the community. So that's why, yes, you could waste, if you will, if you use that term, a month or 2 months worth of the membership NFT. If, let's just say, we launch the next BTC NFTs in February-ish timeframe. But very well, depending on certain YouTube partners that we may be bringing online, the community can expand very, very quickly.
And any alpha you want to release on that? I just have to ask.
Not necessarily. Not yet. I want to make sure with them specifically, they're fully on board. But yeah, I mean, even right now, right, we're working with communities of, across YouTube, across Twitter, of over 500,000 subscribers, followers on Twitter, YouTube, whatever it may be. So we've got a vast reach in what we're doing. Obviously, the amount of people involved in crypto right now and viewing and subscribing is much, much less than a year ago, because it's less exciting and less rewarding than it was a year ago. But, we're looking to constantly expand and increase our exposure and our reach into next year.
Okay, very good. And we're just finishing up with a couple last questions. If you guys have any final last questions, then let me know. We'll get those up. I've committed a blasphemy talking about Ethereum in a Bitcoin mining conversation. Yes, you did. Funny turtle. Take that conversation elsewhere. Anonymous income for the win. And yeah, I don't want to get into it. Well, I was going to mention some tax things, but I've been told don't say anything about taxes, so I'm not going to mention that. Japan raising their interest rates. Trust me, the world's going crazy. Yes, there's a lot of crazy.
Yeah, I did see that.
Do you get return in Bitcoin or stable coins? And like membership NFTs, do the new NFTs expire? Do your Bitcoin NFTs expire as well?
No. So the Bitcoin NFTs, there's no expiration date. I know there are projects out there that have like a 4-year lifetime or whatever it is. It's not the case with the BTC NFTs. As long as you hold them, you'll get your rewards in Bitcoin. We wanted to, you'll realize as soon as you look at the BTC NFTs, and you have the different aspects, we wanted to bridge the gap, not only from breaking down the barriers to mining, but also give as much of the sensation to mining as much as possible. So when you connect your Kadena, when James connected his KD6, right, to Kadena and mine Kadena, he got Kadena in the same way that we're looking at when you have a hash rate service with BTC mining, you get BTC. When we do the same thing with Kadena, we do the same thing if we plan on doing it with Litecoin Doge. So there won't be unstable or anything like that. We're bridging the gap between NFTs and mining Bitcoin.
And actually, that's what you want, is you want your returns in Bitcoin. This is not the right time to sell Bitcoin that's mined. Okay, you're not going to be very profitable if you do that. So this is the time to get Bitcoin, accumulate Bitcoin, and wait till it goes up at least a little bit. But I would not recommend anyone sell Bitcoin at these levels. Personally, not financial advice. I call it financial nudging,
right?
For legal reasons.
There you go.
Let's go ahead. We'll wrap up there. Thank you, Alex. So again, reminding people, these are available now. Your membership NFTs. They're 31 Matic, which is going to be about $25 or so. And the Bitcoin NFTs will be out tonight at 12 a.m. UTC, 7 p.m. Eastern time. And they're going to be doing a launch party and all those things. So it'll be hard to miss if you're around the Fraction Mining Discord and things like that. But audience, thank you guys for coming on and listening to this. I would say this is in my top projects somewhere. I haven't, done my rankings. those rankings kind of seemed like maybe a curse. So I might not do those anymore.
Yeah.
But this was one of my top projects. Again, I just feel like you won't lose all your money, which is what I'm looking for in this space right now. And Alex, thank you for building something in the bear market, something we can be, excited about. And again, I've been burned out in this space, so it's nice to have an AMA where it's like, oh man, I'm excited about
Yeah.
this. So thank you for doing that, and thanks for doing so many AMAs and answering all the questions. I appreciate it.
Absolutely, James. I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to come on here. And obviously, I wish it was all due to my big brain success. But the big thing for me, you look at the rest of the team, you look at the other co-founders. There's a reason that they're there. They're all businessmen. They have business acumen. We've got great community mods. We've got great community management. A lot of people very well known. Natosha. And one of the unique things, I love talking about the team because I actually know many of them. I've spent time with them. I've had dinner with them. Major, our business to business point of contact. He and I go back to 2019. We've worked together. So, that's one of the big things is surrounding yourself with successful people is really, really important in a space like this. And people that have a lot more experience than I do is really important to myself because it's not all because I'm some big brain genius. It's because we've got people that you surround yourself with that have the wisdom, that have the insight, that have the knowledge, have maybe a little bit more gray hair than I do, that are able to kind of help you and guide you in making this a success. So I'm super excited about the team
Yeah.
and what we're doing.
Well, and that's one of the reasons it's so hard to create a blockchain based business is because you kind of need a combination. Most of the gray hair people are not real interested in blockchain technology.
Yeah.
You kind of need a combination of youth that are, hey, let's get on blockchain, and you need the business accliments from some of the older people. And so it's hard to get the right combination together. But I think you might have found it. So, and Hydra Whales as well, I think has
Yep.
found it. So
100%.
awesome. Well, hey, I appreciate you, man. And I look forward to the launch tonight. I'll try to be around and be part of the party as well. So thank you so
Awesome.
much, and hope everybody has a great rest of their day.
Sounds great. Thanks, James.
Take care, everybody.